Hey, what's up, Toby? We made another week.
Or-
All right, I'm doing good. Fun fact: we've known each other for a very long time,
Yes,
and
sir.
your brother, who probably
Common
doesn't
thread
listen,
here.
um, is how we met,
That's right.
and he is the inspiration for today's podcast, which is a joke that
Standing.
he would say, which was, "Do you know how you sell a deaf person chickens?"
God, Chris. I, yeah, we're
It,
getting into some
it,
slippery territory.
any idea? Any idea?
We're going to offend all of our ones of listeners
That is
that
correct.
may be too sensitive for this kind of behavior.
That's
How do you sell a deaf person chickens?
You say, "Does anybody want some chickens?" Like really loud. It's a terrible joke. And like,
It's a horrible joke.
it was so bad. But it does lead
Well,
me to today's topic.
I was going to say, I hope that horrible joke is one with a purpose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We could have just compromised our political careers.
I yeah, dang it. Politics is not for me.
Yeah.
Now, the topic for today that I want to talk about is that there is this common idea that if I just tell someone louder or more bolder than what I expect them to do and or hear will be more obvious.
Okay, so now your chicken joke makes more sense. It's also what we do when we encounter someone that doesn't speak English,
Yep.
louder and
Yep.
slower.
Yeah.
And then we're shocked when they do the same thing to us. But you're right. What happens when our best efforts to communicate are clearly failing?
Correct. And I do
What's
think
behind this? Yeah, keep
I do
going.
think that this happens in offices
Oh, God bless.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's less yelling. Now, sometimes there's yelling. That's fine. But there is all of the let's kick it down the road. Let's put a pin in it.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, there's all these, we could probably just sit here and stay forever on like all of the different ways that you prevent
Oh, God.
communication and clarity.
It's true, right? Or in our efforts to communicate, we continue to talk past each other violently
Correct.
and only later discover A, we were talking about two totally different things, or
Correct.
B, we were in violent agreement and not understanding what the other guy did.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
It is the, walking a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yes.
Like, I think we have these bad habits in which it's like, well, I know what it's like to walk in other people's shoes because I saw him walk in his shoes. You're like, yeah, but did you try the shoes on?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
no, you didn't. And so the reason why this comes up is, we do engagements all the time. And one of the things that you have to do to be good at our job is you have to be able to say, what do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? And you have to sit there and listen. And then,
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish.
and then at times they're like, they don't tell you what they're doing. They tell you what the theoretical possible is inside of something that they don't understand.
Made me snort. I'm laughing so hard. God bless, Chris. It just hits on such a personal level where you ask somebody for the time and they want to tell you about the origins of sundial.
Yeah.
Still not interested. The question behind the question is, did I miss the bus? But you get to the bus stop, you're asking the time, you're looking at the board. They want to tell you about sundial. And then they're going to tell you about for breakfast. And you're like, for the love of Pete, do I need to call an Uber? Like,
That's funny.
but you're right. We do this to each other all the time. We do this to each other all the time. And I think, let me throw a couple immediate thoughts that come to mind. The very first one, Chris, is that so oftentimes we don't know if we're in a dialogue with partners
Oh, yes.
of equal standing and stature. So there's
100%.
this power
Yeah.
confusion, or sometimes it's a question of, are you the consultant and I'm expressing my needs?
Sure.
Or is it directive? Are you telling me to do
Sure.
something
Yeah.
and I don't recognize your
Yeah.
authority? Like, I'm sure there's a myriad of
Yeah.
screwed up conversations based on lack of role clarity.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that immediately jump to mind, especially when you said we go into a client engagement. So immediately that makes me think the job is on us to listen and interpret. They're paying us for interpretation and then translating it into
Yeah.
action. But even then, we still have these breakdowns, don't we?
Yeah. It's incredible. And then the other thing that happens is like, it's almost like kids on those little kick bikes, right? Where it's like, once they figure out the kick bike, then it's like, well, I need to go to a motorcycle. And you're like, oh, kid, you're gonna hurt yourself. And like,
It's a little good. Yeah.
you're like, I figured it out and I can do the thing. And you're like, you can, and I've done that 100 times and it doesn't work.
Right.
Or, it's cute and it works one time. Right.
Yeah. Well, I saw it on YouTube,
Oh, gosh.
right? I saw it on TikTok.
I saw it on YouTube.
I saw, we get this a lot professionally, right? Where it's like, I had a dream about what I think the tool should do.
Right.
Why doesn't it behave the way in my dream? There's a lot of what we're finding is people have an opinion or a perspective that doesn't have a lot of basis. It's not based on experience. It's not based on best practice. It's a desire.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I too wish that I could ride a motorcycle, really awesome.
there you go.
But kick bikes is really the lane I'm supposed to stay in.
Well, it's the alleviation of stress. If what I got yelled at by my boss or got that terse email, if I can alleviate that in the future, right?
Yeah.
And yet we don't think about, well, this is the first time that's happened and there are extenuating circumstances around it. And
Right.
therefore I shouldn't worry about this.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is like we very much, when we think process, and this is kind of why a process debt gets created, is we think, how do we solve the problem of today instead of how do we solve the problem 6 months from now or 3 years from now? Because if you take that long approach, you're going to change less, because you're not going to be whiplashy, right? Like, it's literally what our government is built on, where you have the Congress where it flips over all the time, and you've got the Senate, it doesn't flip over at all. Right? And
Not until the 110-year-old guys finally die.
Correct. Well, and what's interesting is, like, a lot of times, because managers and executives have to validate their role, they insert change for change's sake. And so you have this rapidly moving debt machine it's spinning out debt, process debt, that they don't even know, because back to your point that you were talking about, sometimes the manager is just, they want to add value too. So they're sharing their opinions. All of a sudden the IC is like, oh, my boss wants me to go do a thing. They run off, spend 30 hours working on a thing. They come back with their shiny thing. And their boss was like, oh, that's actually not that important. And if they're a good boss, they're like, oh, good job. They pat them on.
Well, Slaughter, it's interesting, Chris, because if we think about just a very simple, like a service desk request, we all have these in organizations, or we enter them in when our internet goes down, or we call our phone subscriber or our phone cell phone provider when we have an issue.
Yeah.
All of these things get logged.
Yep.
And then there's some kind of triage. Is this a little thing, a big thing? Is it urgent?
Yep.
And then that moves forward in a process. The recurring thing that I think is so difficult is that the process is not well understood. It's not well understood how I'm going to navigate a call to my insurance company or my cell phone provider. It's also not well understood how my request is going to be processed inside of a company
Mhm.
oftentimes. And so when I have one mental model of how the process should work, and that other person, the boss, the manager, the client has a different version of the process,
Mhm.
we're immediately going to be out of sync.
Um, yeah, and the other thing that we greatly overestimate is our understanding of the process,
Yeah.
right? And we end up doing this a lot where, you talk to one person in a department and they believe the process is X. The other
Yeah.
person thinks it's A and the other person thinks it's C, right? And it's miraculous that us as human beings, it's because we're just so incredibly flexible that we actually get anything done.
Oh my gosh. It's true that, this idea of, do you want to buy some chickens? Um, which is a universal kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's just what a horrible dad joke and super illustrative of
Yeah,
it. That does sound like a dad joke straight out of the 70s.
it
So
does.
that makes sense that my brother would still remember it. But what's so interesting about it is that rarely are our conversations so straightforward.
We when we get to a place that we don't understand process, we tell stories about what we think the process should be.
Yep.
And generally the other person is like, oh, yeah, that's totally it. And then we go back to our desks and we're like, what did he say? What do
Yeah.
I do? Or worse yet, you try to do the thing and
Yeah.
you're like, that's not even how the system works.
No. Have you been listening in on my calls today? We're just no, it's fascinating because how timely. I've had a few of these where I show up to a meeting with an agenda
Mhm.
and I think we're going to talk about fruit. And instead we talk about automotive parts.
Yeah.
I mean, not literally, but it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of fundamental disconnect. So I'm asking about scheduling and they're talking about weight.
Yeah.
And I think it's weight, WEIGHT,
Yeah.
not WAIT, which actually would have made sense.
Yeah.
And so it is these strange misses. And oftentimes you're right. It's not until we walk away do we go, I have no clarity. I have no action items to
Yeah.
move this conversation forward. The
Correct.
only thing I can do is get back into a room with the person and still talk past each other.
Yeah.
So yes, we're manufacturing a process that when we fail to communicate,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
time and time.
the other thing is like there's different types of people, right? So you've got the people that are auditory, you got the people that are visual, and you have the people that are kinesthetic, right? And nothing is more funny than watching a kinesthetic talk to someone who's visual because the
Oh,
kinesthetic they just want to put their hands on their keyboards or go dig a hole or whatever. And the person that's talking that's like visual is like, this is what I want to see. And so the kinesthetics person's like, I don't care what you want to see. Like, what do you want? And so I've been in a couple meetings like that this week where you're like, this is how it should work. And you're like, great, but the system has constraints that you've got to live in.
yeah.
And like the reality is like, until we like sit in people's shoes and we go down to the shop floor, of knowledge work and just say, show me what you're doing. Tell me why
Yeah.
you do it that way. Or just watch. Like, that's the funny thing. That's the other thing is like, by coming in and asking, you've already polluted the well a little bit by making sure that they don't do anything that they think is going to be perceived as stupid.
Well, it's the Hawthorne effect again,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Being studied, they behave differently. Chris, we've talked about different points in our career, and I think today, with all the extra technologies
Mhm.
and the assumption that technology is already custom built to perform a task,
Yeah.
that it follows best practice, and that it's going to do what I need it to do without requirements,
Yeah.
without a process diagram, without any forethought. We just
Yep.
jump in, throw more tools at it. And now people are asking AI questions and then telling me I'm wrong in my
Yep.
expert domain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's impossible to keep up. There's so many pieces
Yep.
encroaching on what used to be pretty civil
Yep.
conversations.
Well, and the other thing is like we become so lazy that even process diagrams are really hard. And so
Well,
unless you can actually say, all right, process diagram, here's your diagram. Show me how you do that in your day to day or in the system that you're supposed to do it in. Like
yeah.
even that gets lost.
Well, Chris, I think what I'm hearing you describe is really the importance of us putting back on this kind of trust but verify
Yeah.
net hat. So as we get into conversations, and particularly around process, to avoid creating unnecessary debt and
Yep.
confusion,
Yep.
we have to go all the way back to the same stick figures that we drew at
Correct. Correct.
4 and 5 years old. We start here, then what happens?
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Well,
Because I think if we're not looking at the same series of activities, then we don't know if we're going to need to buy chickens or not.
yeah, it's totally true. And the other thing is like, you know, we can sometimes just say the same thing over and over again because we think that our problem is the most important problem for our team or our department or the company. And I
Yeah.
will tell you, sometimes it's not.
I'm going to respectfully agree to disagree. Well, that may be true of others, Chris, but
Well, just
for the sake of argument, maybe that's true. I'll acknowledge.
What's interesting, just be an observer, just be a third party observer in
Yeah.
your meetings, and you will see the same people saying the same thing over and over and over again. And so what's interesting, like some of this is just being self-aware and just being like, okay, well, I'm going to lean toward process. And the reality is if I say the same thing in 2 meetings in a row and it's not being heard, it's not important. Right.
Yeah.
And so the reality is at that point in time, it's time to go pull out your process, credit card and just throw a little debt on it because CEO don't care.
Moving on.
We're moving on.
I do think, so we've talked about, I think the problem is well understood. I like this call out. If you're trying to champion a conversation and you're not getting traction, that's a sign that it's a you problem and it's not a collective problem.
Yeah.
So I think that's
Correct.
a really good call out. And it's hard, it's humbling.
Yep.
And it's a lot more satisfying to stop not being heard and just make something happen. So I love that. The second piece that we've touched on is when in doubt, start to draw some simple pictures.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Because to your point, we have auditory learners, we have visual learners,
Yeah.
we have kinetic learners. And I think that when we draw a picture and talk it through out loud, and our audio listeners can't see me dancing my finger across the screen step by step, but that introduces this kinetic piece where we're drawing that eye to the next step and keeping people focused in a way that all the software and PowerPoints and fancy stuff in the world, it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lose people in our dialogues. What are some things though about how we break down the confusion about, am I being heard? Do you really want to buy chicken?
I think there's a lot of like this, there's a bit of like the show me state.
Yeah.
Like just show me what you're doing, show me where you're doing it.
Okay.
And just be curious. Like I think we lack curiosity because I think quite simply, if we're more curious, we realize how ignorant we really are in a ton of different areas.
Yeah.
And sure, we might be smarter than we, as a species for a really long, than we've been maybe ever. And a lot of that is surface level. Like when you get into any sort of depth in any sort of tool, like you get depth and you're able to keep that depth if you stay in that tool. If you hop out of that tool or go to a different domain, that depth just kind of disappears. And you have that surface level like knowledge that you get to keep with you and you keep the frameworks and stuff. But we are quite clever when it comes to hiding our embarrassment, when it comes to not knowing what someone else is saying or what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. There is there's something magical when we acknowledge that we're out of our depth or that we
Yeah.
simply don't understand.
Yeah.
One of my favorite years ago as a young finance guy, I was supporting a guy that ran one of the big markets for our telecom company.
Yeah.
And he pointed out the difference between being stupid and ignorant. And he said, I'm ignorant of a lot of financial concepts as they're presented by a corporate finance.
Yep.
I'm very fluent with how we put together contracts and package our products and do our pricing. So you're going to have to educate me.
Yeah.
But, God bless him. The number of times somebody has raised their hand and just said, let me admit how little I know, and I'm going to be asking you guys to slow down. That's a humbling experience. It takes a lot of self-confidence to be able to do that.
Sure.
So maybe that's one of those elements, right? Is, own what you know, but also be transparent about what you don't and get the experts to lean in for you.
Yeah. I'm going to end it with one of my favorite sayings, which is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And when it comes to understanding process, most likely if things are going swimmingly, there is 100 processes that you're not paying attention to that the team is doing. Right.
Yes.
But if it grinds, if the gears are grinding, go slow.
I love it.
Figure
Chris.
it out. Think through it. Ask how someone else does it so that you can move fast.
That's it. Slow progress is real progress.
There you go.
I love it, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. All right. See you next week.
Yep.